Good afternoon everyone, and here is the M60A3. This is a die-cast model widely available on the internet. D'Agostini Altea, I think. It's a M60A3 which has the later shrouded gun barrel, and it has the TTS, which is the thermal imaging sight, which was, apart from a few other things like the MET sensor at the rear, the lack of the stereoscopic rangefinder system, reliability improvements, engine power improvements, and a few other changes. Namely, the hydraulic fluid was changed to one with a higher flash point, so to prevent fires and explosions occurring. This was very similar to the M60A1. Now, the M60 series is always a bit of a meh tank to me. In some ways it was one of the best Cold War tanks in that it was reliable. It had a good engine, it had a good ground crossing ability. In other ways it was ridiculously tall. It was always very much an interim tank, and you have to remember at this period the Americans are planning to go to the A2 model, the combined Shalala 152mm gun system, I think it was, with the missiles, and basically that didn't work, and then they started experimenting with the West Germans with the MBT 70 series. So the M60 ended up soldiering on way longer than it should have been, and the Marines used the M60A1s with explosive reactive armour in the First Gulf War. The Israelis also used them, the Magach 6, and then they upgraded a load of them into the Magach 7s, 7A, B, C, I believe, and then retired them when they became too vulnerable to IEDs. Now, the die-cast kit is good. The only issues is the turret line has to be filled in, which necessitates a repaint. So I've just painted it in the US Valio forest green, as it would have been before it got issued out to the units, where they would then apply the 4-tone camo pattern. Now, interestingly, the A3 was due to be upgraded into the A4, but with the advent of the M1 Abrams, the end of the Cold War, it never made it that far. The big weakness of the M60A3 was in armour. As the Cold War developed and weapons became more effective, especially anti-tank weapons like the Soviet ones, the 84, the 85, and even if you think of these being used by the Turkish forces in interventions in Syria, they've been extremely vulnerable to anti-tank weapons. The Saudis have found that in the war in Yemen as well. Now, the Marines got the explosive reactive armour for the Gulf War, but there doesn't really seem to be any wide issuing of that to the A3 series. The A3 really could do with that, because it is a death trap now against modern anti-tank weapons. The Turkish army continues to use them in large numbers, but they've modernised them and they fitted various applique armour kits and various different turrets to them. The Egyptians are also big users of the M60A3. They don't seem to have gone in for as many upgrades. Now, in my What If universe, I used these for the Oilem army. It would have been a good consideration for the Malagasy Armed Forces. It's not the heaviest tank in the world. It's a great deal lighter than the M1 Abrams. It does have a big, spacious turret. Its weaknesses are in its armour, particularly against modern anti-tank weapons, and ammunition stowage. The ammunition stowage on the M60 series is not great. So it's kind of a meh tank in many ways. It's not terrible. It's not a great tank. It did its job and it served reliably for many years. Really, for an interim design to serve that long shows that the base concept was quite good. The reason it didn't really get upgraded by the US was because the advent of the Abrams and budgetary constraints meant there was no need and the National Guard got Abrams instead of having the M60A4. I quite like it as a tank. Its armour is in some ways not as good as the M48, which it replaced. In other ways, its fighting ability is better. The A3 is the best of the bunch with that thermal imaging sight, the TTS sight. As a model, I like it. It needs some work. The colours don't look right that it comes in. Forest green is your base, and then you add the other colours. You change the one secondary colour, and you keep the tertiary, the white or khaki colour and the black colour, and it allows you to change patterns depending on the time of the year. So yeah, let me know what you think, but this is the M60A3.